Hey, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the purchase of my first commercial property so you can get a little context around the numbers to figure out how to value these properties and see if it makes sense for you. So the first thing I did was I got the numbers from the seller. I did validate these and I overestimated on a lot of the expenses that I thought they were going to be, and you'll see that when I show you these numbers versus what it actually turned out to be. So the seller said they were spending zero on advertising. They would just put a sign out in front of the property and had their phone number on it, and they would just have people reach out to them that way. They said it was taking like a month, 2 months to get a vacancy filled. Something me and a partner do is we use a lot of Facebook, and we'll do networking like through the tenants to figure out if they have anybody that's looking for an apartment currently, and that's been another way that I filled a lot of vacancies. And generally, tenants aren't going to refer you somebody that's going to be bad. They'll refer you somebody that is going to make them look good. So I haven't had any issues there. So for advertising, they were spending zero. Ours is the same. For utilities, they told me that they were spending $8,068 a year on this is water primarily and electric for the building itself because the building has a separate electric meter than all of the apartments. For trash, they were spending $2,384 a year. This is a dumpster. So we just have one big dumpster for the whole property. For gas, they were spending about $4,600 a year. Most of this is actually going to be during your winter months. I've noticed that during the summer, this bill is usually about $100 to $150. But during the winter, it is pretty brutal. Like my last bill was like $800 for the previous month, and I think my one this month is about $800 or $900 as well. Painting, they put 900. Yeah, I just thought this was wrong. The paint this doesn't even cover painting one apartment for me. Generally, it's about $1,200 for me to get a full apartment painted. So I don't know where they got this one, but it is what it is. Insurance, theirs was 84.84, about $8,500 a year in insurance. Pretty normal for one of these properties. Snow removal, they said 300. This is low because you need to have somebody that can come actually do this. And I notice most of the time that this is costing me anywhere from $60 to $150 for somebody to actually remove all the snow from the sidewalks, as well as the using one of their trucks to push all the snow out of the parking lot. Lawn care, 500. Yet again, very low. They had one of their kids doing this, so they weren't charging them too much money. I notice I have lawn care being done for about like 8 months out of the year, and it's about $40 biweekly. So you can do the math there. Taxes, $9,230. This is something you really want to pay attention to when you're buying a property in general, whether it's commercial or not. You should always assess the tax value at whatever it is in your county. So, for instance, ours is 2%. So I always value the taxes that I'm going to have to pay at 2%, even if they don't move up that quickly right away. Repairs, 5,419. And again, feels like a really, really low number for me, unless everything is fully optimized and you're not doing a whole lot of repairs. I've had a lot more than this in the past few months, just turning some units and getting everything ready to go and getting the apartments up to market. $248 per year for a PO box. I just eliminated that. I'm not going to pay for a PO box. They can direct deposit checks straight into your account at the bank, or they can use our rental property management software, which is Rent Ready, and they can just have it auto deposited on the first of the month. That's what most people have preferred to do. So monthly rent, netting out the vacancy, I came to around $7,800 a month, and the annual rent, $93,000 a year. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, let's get into the financing, because that's where this turns this deal into a not so good deal, because $93,000 a year sounds great until you factor everything else out of it, such as all the expenses above that they had. For example, on this, we settled on $775,000. They initially wanted $950,000, but we just couldn't make that work. We were already buying this deal at a negative cash flow. So we weren't really willing to stomach another few $1,000s a month, or a few $1,000s, yeah, a few $1,000s a month in negative cash flow. I underwrote this with a 7.5 interest rate. This was as high as I thought it could be. We ended up coming a point lower than this, and you'll see that when we go over the numbers. Our down payment, we had to do nearly 30% down on this property. So we had to put $225,000 down. If you don't have that much money to put down, don't worry about it. Do what I did. Go get a partner. I only had 50 to put into this deal, so my partner came up with the rest. And how did I save that 50? It was from house hacking and not having mortgage payment for like a year and a half. I saved like all of my money together to put it into this property. The term you're looking at. So I assessed this on a 20-year term just because I was expecting to get a 20-year note for the bank I was working with. I had to go through an approval on a special committee to even get the term that I got, but I just underwrote this on a 20-year note. And if I could make it work that way, I could make it work with a longer term. So below, you'll see some of the numbers that I just copied over from his, like the utility expenses, trash, gas, all that together. We're looking at about $15,146 a year. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner in the sum thing. And insurance, I estimated this at $10,000 a year. I overshot this because I was not sure where we were going to land with insurance, getting a new policy, and I was not confident that we were going to be able to get the same price the seller had gotten. You'll see that it's drastically different. $500 for snow removal. I just estimated this just in case, I'm shoveling the sidewalks and somebody else is using their truck to clear the parking lots. A little sweat equity here, if you will. Lawn care, $2,400 a year. That's with biweekly for, I believe it's 6 or 8 months, and it's $40 every 2 weeks. Taxes, $15,500. That's because this is 2% of our purchase price of $775. You always want to underwrite it this way if your county's tax for commercial properties or investment properties is 2%. That's what ours is. That's the roof, so they can go higher than that. Repairs, I put in 10% of all rents, so that came out to $10,200. Got rid of the PO box. Don't need that. Saved the $250 a year. Debt service, $53,169 per year. Pretty steep, but if you get the rent up, it's manageable. Vacancy. So vacancy, I made that 8%. I know a lot of people will use 5, but I don't think 5% makes sense unless you have a massive portfolio, because 8% is equal to 1 month. So that's why I choose 8% to underwrite with. And annual rents, I just did this off of a small bump. I was looking at slowly bumping everybody up. Luckily, we had a bunch of turns right away, so we were able to actually increase the rents much quicker than I thought, within a solid 3 or 4 months, actually, where I was expecting to spend a year eating this negative cash flow. So their average rent was $708 a month. In my market, that is very low. This should really be around like $950 to $1,000 a month. And there's some upgrades that I can do that should be able to get it up to $1,200, but I'm willing to just leave it where it is for now. I like all the people we have there, and I'd really like to just keep it as is. So you can see on this deal, me and my partner were signing up to lose $13,075 per year after putting down $225,000 and putting $25,000 into renovations. That means we were signing up to lose $1,089 a month, or a negative 5.8% cash on cash return. Not good. But this is how the numbers actually worked out. So when we bought the property, I was able to talk the bank into doing a 25-year mortgage, which helped us decrease our payment by about $300 a month. And we used about $25,000 of our capital on top of the $225 for rehab. You can see the down payment's different here. It's just a mix of closing costs and stuff. This is what it ended up being. So all in, We put in $257,500 into this deal. Yet again, I didn't have that much money. I only had like 50 to put into the deal. That's why my partner was so important in actually getting this deal across the line. You'll also see that we got a this says 6.5. It was actually a 6.65% interest rate, but all the debt service and everything is correct. So purchase price 775, 6.65% interest rate, fixed for 5 years on a 25-year term. It says our estimates. This is my actual numbers because this is the spreadsheet I've been using to document everything as we make changes. So for utilities, this is actually rounding out to me being about $11,505 per year. But I grouped gas with the water and electric that they were paying. So that just netted out being about the same. It's just one column instead of multiple. I just didn't feel like there was need to separate it out. Trash, I got this at $2,100 a year. So I saved like $100 more than they were spending. I think it's about 100. Let me see. Just got to move me over there real quick and go back up. They were spending, 2,384. I got 2,100. So pretty good. Insurance. This one shocked me a little bit. This came in at $4,700. The first insurance we got was about $9,600, so it was really close to what we were paying. But after a few months, we switched over to this insurance company, and we got it down to $4,700 per year, which is amazing because that saves us about $5,000 more than I was expecting us to have. Snow removal, kept it at the 500. I really haven't spent too much money on this. I've spent a couple hundred here and there, but it's manageable. I think that 500 is a pretty accurate number between getting salt, me shoveling, and then having other people use their truck to plow the parking lot. Lawn care, it's about $1,000. In my previous numbers, it was about 2,400. I just cut down the frequency. So instead of doing once every week and making it $40, I did biweekly. And instead of 8 months, I knocked this down to 6. We'll see if we need to update this. I'm not super worried if we have to do, 10 more cuts and make it 1,400 instead of 1,000. Taxes. So taxes, I just got our assessment for this year. And since I spoke with the assessors and let them know where the rents were, I was able to not get the basis to move up as quickly to the 775. So we have time to optimize the property before we have to start paying the $15,000 a year in taxes. So that was a $5,000 savings that I wasn't expecting. And my goal is to get the rents up before then so we can kind of just net out the increase in taxes. Repairs, I made this 8%. We've just spent so much money so far. Like getting rent ready from the $25,000 rehab that the first year I just threw in an extra $10,000 just in case. I would normally make this about 10%. So if we wanted to do that, we could honestly just go right here and 0.1. There we go. So 12,000, 13,000 pretty much for repairs. Debt service, 45,862. We were expecting that to be 53,000. So that's another about $7,000 plus or minus a few hundred that we were able to save. So far, if you've seen, we were able to save $7,000 on the debt service, $5,000 on the insurance, and $5,000 on the taxes, adding up to like $17,000 a year in savings so far. That's what I'm looking for. I want to underwrite as conservatively as possible. So when we get to a situation like this, even if those numbers were all what I was expecting, I would have still been happy with it. So our vacancy, I knocked this down to 5% just because we've been doing all the turns. You could keep this at 8% if you really wanted to. Just for simplicity, let's throw it back to 8%. So make that $10,000 per year in vacancy. And annual rent roll. So this is really the big factor for us. So instead of the 102 that we were estimating, we actually got this up to 129. Because we just had so many turns so quickly, and we were able to raise rents pretty fast compared to how we were expecting. We were initially expecting to raise everybody's rent about $100 to $150. And some of these we got to go up like 300 within a few months. And that's just because we had 4 turns right away and then about 3 more after that. So we're down to like a very small amount of units that aren't up to where everybody else is. And utility bill back. So this is something that we started doing so we could get rid of some of this utility cost that we have up here. So we created a utility rub. It's just like pushing back some of the costs of the utilities. So we took this number and essentially tried to find a number that would like cut it in half. So we've been billing everybody about $50 a month. Some of those say 100, but that's because they have a dog. And we do allow pets, because if you don't allow pets, you cut out like 50% of renters. So you might as well allow pets. I mean, if you don't want them to have it in there, they're probably going to sneak it in anyways, so you might as well get paid for it. So when you sum these two to get all of these together, you get down to the $37,053 that we are netting per year. We're probably not going to net this our first year just because we've done so many repairs and we're replacing a lot of things that have been deferred in maintenance. Like, for example, we have some AC units we got to do next month, which is going to be about 20. But it is what it is, because when we get down to the cash on cash return, after investing all the money back into the repairs, we should be expecting about a 14.39% cash on cash return from that -3 that you saw earlier, making this a stellar deal. And in fact, our DSCR, or debt service coverage ratio, is at 2.14 times. I think if you could get anything to a 2 on your DSCR, you are crushing it. So I'm really happy with this. And something else that me and my partner were really happy about is, since this is a commercial property, everything's based on the net operating income. So this number, for example, every the value of the property is based off of how much the property makes. So if we eliminated the debt service and we just had that 82,000 net, we bought this property for a cap rate of about 6.5 ish. So if we were to just reassess this back at a 6.5, so all you do is take your net and you divide that by 0.065, we're looking at the property being worth somewhere around 1.275 million. I've talked to a few brokers, they said that might be a little high, but I mean, even if we made this let's just make it an 8, for example, an 8 cap. Well, if we take this number and we subtract our purchase price, we added $261,000 in value to this property just by increasing the rents. Of course, we've done some maintenance and updates to the property, but that is a substantial difference, because if you look at what our down payment is, we put down $232,500 and we rehabbed it for $25,000. We got $257,500 in this, and we made $261,000 in value. So our objective when rates start to lower is, if we can get a 4 or 5%, we're going to try to refinance out all of our money so we can go buy another property but keep our payment the same. So we'll keep making the roughly $37,000 a year on the property, and we're going to increase rents over time, so this will probably go up. But we'll have our cash back out, our $257,000, to go buy more property. And I think this is really the magical part about commercial. So avoiding over leveraging, I think, is really important. But if we're able to use leverage in a smart way, like we're doing here, where we're adding value and then we're taking some of that value out, but we're keeping our payments the same, so we know that the property will still cover this around a 2.0 DSCR. That's amazing. And we're going to use that money to go buy another commercial property. If you have any questions about buying commercial property, I'm going to leave my email in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me. And this is just the first deal I've done in commercial. I look forward to doing many more in the area. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Have a great day.